The autumn chill bit through my valet uniform as I parked another Mercedes at the Bellevue Country Club. Mother's 55th birthday celebration was in full swing inside, and thanks to my brother Michael's brilliant suggestion, I was spending it directing traffic in the parking lot. "Hey sis, that Bentley needs moving," Michael called out from the entrance, champagne glass in hand. His Armani suit probably cost more than what he thought I made in a year. "The valet suits you, Julia. Finally found your calling." If he only knew that I'd turned down buying Bentley's parent company last month because I found their innovation timeline too slow. But here I was, playing my part, watching my family celebrate while thinking I was barely making ends meet. My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus, my COO. "Emergency board meeting needed. Singapore acquisition hit a snag. $4.2 billion deal at stake. Private jet standing by." I glanced at my watch, an understated Patek Philippe that cost more than Michael's house, and typed back, "How long can we delay? Critical decision needed within 2 hours. Asian markets opening soon." Perfect timing. I'd been wondering how to make my exit from this charade, and now the universe had handed me the perfect opportunity. Through the country club's floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see my family holding court, celebrating their perceived success while relegating me to the parking lot. "Julia." My mother's voice carried across the driveway. "There's a Ferrari coming. Try not to scratch it. We can't afford your mistakes tonight." I suppressed a smile, remembering the fleet of Ferraris sitting in my private garage. The one I'd designed myself was still in development at Maranello, with specifications that would make this one look like a family sedan. Inside, during my brief breaks to warm up, I caught snippets of conversation about me. My father, Charles Harrison, proudly introducing Michael as his successful child, the investment banker who'd recently made vice president at Morgan Stanley. Then, with a dismissive wave toward the parking lot, "Julia's still finding herself. Finding myself. Right. Like founding Harrison Global Technologies at 23, building it into a $50 billion company by 30, and keeping my identity secret from everyone, including my family who thought I was struggling with a small tech support job. Still driving other people's cars?" Michael's wife Amanda smirked as she handed me her keys. "Though I suppose it's better than taking the bus like you usually do." If she only knew I took the bus because I was testing my company's new autonomous public transportation system. The same system her precious Morgan Stanley had tried to invest in last month, only to be rejected without even getting a meeting. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Sarah, my executive assistant. Jet-fueled and ready at private airstrip. Board members assembled in Singapore. Also, Morgan Stanley called again about investment opportunity. Should I send the usual rejection? I watched Michael bragging to his banking friends about his recent $1 million bonus. The same amount I spent on lunch meetings last week. "Julia." My father's stern voice cut through my thoughts. "Stop dawdling with that phone and park these cars. Unless you'd rather be unemployed." Unemployed. The irony was delicious. My company had just been valued at $52 billion, and I employed more people than every guest at this party combined. Then I heard it, the distinctive sound of jet engines approaching. I'd specifically instructed my pilot about the flight path, making sure it would be visible from the country club's windows. "My word," I heard someone say inside. "That's the Harrison Global Technologies private jet. I'd know that livery anywhere." Michael rushed to the window. "Harrison Global? They're impossible to get a meeting with. Even Morgan Stanley can't get past their gatekeepers." I checked my watch again. Time for the show to begin. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, removing my valet uniform to reveal a perfectly tailored Chanel suit underneath. "I'm afraid I have an emergency board meeting to attend." The sound of the jet grew louder as I shed the valet jacket, revealing not just the Chanel suit, but also the custom-designed Harrison Global Technologies CEO pin that had sparked bidding wars among collectors. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floor in perfect synchronization with the realization dawning on their faces. That's impossible," Michael stammered, his Morgan Stanley VP badge suddenly looking remarkably cheap. "You're a valet. You work in tech support." "Correction," I smiled, sliding my hand through my hair and removing the purposefully messy ponytail. "I own a tech support company. Along with Harrison Global Technologies, Harrison Aerospace, and about 50 other corporations you've probably begged for meetings with." The jet made another pass, closer this time, its distinctive black and gold livery clearly visible through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The same colors that adorned my CEO pin, which Michael was now staring at with growing horror. Ms. Harrison, Sarah's voice came through my earpiece. The board is assembled in Singapore. Mr. Lee from the Singapore Investment Authority is particularly anxious about the $4.2 billion deal. Tell them I'll be there in 90 minutes, I replied loud enough for everyone to hear. The room had gone deathly quiet, every guest frozen in place as they processed what was happening. Julia, my father stepped forward, his banking instincts kicking in. What game are you playing? I pulled out my phone, the real one, not the decoy I'd been using, and projected the Harrison Global Technologies portfolio onto the club's display screens. No games, father. Just business. Your kind of business, remember? The kind you said I'd never understand. The screens filled with data. Market cap $52 billion. Annual revenue $18 billion. Personal net worth $15.4 billion. Michael's recent $1 million bonus suddenly looked like pocket change. But you take the bus. Amanda blurted out, her designer dress suddenly seeming tacky against my understated elegance. Yes, I do. I smiled. The same autonomous buses my company is developing. The project Morgan Stanley has been desperately trying to invest in. I turned to Michael. How many times have you pitched that deal to my board, brother? 15? 20? Michael's face had turned an interesting shade of gray. Those meetings, the rejections, came directly from me. I checked my watch again. Though I particularly enjoyed the last one where you told my board that your failure, sister, was proof that tech investments were unreliable. My mother had found her voice, though it trembled slightly. Darling, why didn't you tell us? We're family. Family. I raised an eyebrow. Like when you made me park cars at your birthday party. Or when you told the country club board that I couldn't afford membership. By the way. I gestured around the room. I bought the club last week. Amazing what money can do. The jet made one final pass, close enough now that the registration number was visible. Michael, ever the banker, recognized it instantly. HE001, he whispered. That's the CEO's personal aircraft. Very good, Michael. I smoothed my suit. Though I prefer HGD002 for shorter flights. This one's just for show tonight. Sarah's voice came through again. Car is in position, Ms. Harrison. Singapore board growing restless. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced to the stunned room. I'm afraid I have a $4.2 billion acquisition to oversee. Mother, happy birthday. I'd stay for cake, but... I gestured to the screens showing my company's stock price. Markets wait for no one. Julia, wait. My father called out. We should talk about this. As a family. There are opportunities. Opportunities. I turned back, enjoying the desperation in his voice. Like the family investment fund you excluded me from? The one that's now worth less than my daily coffee budget. The sound of helicopter blades cut through the night. My actual transportation to the airfield. Michael's banking friends were practically drooling, recognizing the distinctive sound of the ultra-rare Airbus corporate helicopter. By the way, Michael, I added as I walked toward the door. Morgan Stanley's pitch? Rejected again. Though this time it's personal. The helicopter's blades whirred above the country club as I stepped outside, leaving a room full of shattered illusions behind. But I wasn't done yet. This evening's revelation had been 8 years in the making, and I intended to savor every moment. Julia. Michael's voice carried over the noise as he chased after me, his perfectly coiffed hair now disheveled. Wait. We need to talk about this. I paused, turning to face my brother who had spent years making sure everyone knew I was the family failure. Talk about what, Michael? Your rejected Morgan Stanley pitches? Or perhaps your recent attempt to convince the Harrison Global Board that my leadership was questionable at best? His face paled. You know about that? I know everything. I pulled out my tablet, displaying his confidential Morgan Stanley presentations. Including your suggestion last month that Harrison Global would be better off under Morgan Stanley's experienced leadership. Tell me, what experience were you referring to? Your 3 years as VP or Amanda's trust fund? By now the entire party had spilled outside, their designer outfits ill-suited for the autumn chill. My mother clutched her pearls, the ones she told me were too expensive for my lifestyle when I'd admired them last Christmas. If she only knew about my private collection of rare gems that made her jewelry look like costume pieces. Ms. Harrison, Sarah's voice came through my earpiece again. Singapore update. Mr. Lee is offering an additional $800 million to close the deal tonight. Also, Morgan Stanley's CEO is trying to reach you personally. I smiled, watching Michael's face as he overheard the numbers being discussed. His entire career's worth of deals wouldn't add up to this single transaction. Tell Mr. Lee we'll discuss terms en route, I replied. And Morgan Stanley? Send them our standard rejection. Though add a note. Perhaps ask Michael Harrison about his sister's business acumen. Julia, sweetheart. My father stepped forward, adopting his negotiator's stance. Let's be reasonable. You've clearly done well for yourself. We should align our interests. The Harrison family name is now synonymous with technological innovation. I cut him off. No thanks to you. Remember what you said when I started the company? Tech is for people who can't handle real business. How's that assessment looking now, father? The helicopter touched down on the country club's pristine lawn. My helicopter on my lawn. The pilot had executed the landing perfectly, giving everyone a clear view of the Harrison Global Technologies logo and my personal insignia. Your net worth, Amanda blurted out, still staring at the financial data displayed on her phone. It's more than the combined value of everyone at this party. Everyone at this party, their extended families and their entire companies, I corrected her. Though that's last week's valuation. It's probably higher now. My mother stepped forward, tears threatening to ruin her perfect makeup. All this time, when we thought you were struggling, when we tried to help you find a real job. Real job? I laughed. Like last month, when you suggested I apply for an entry-level position at Michael's bank. The same bank that's been desperately trying to get a meeting with me for years. The night air was filled with the sound of notifications as more news broke about Harrison Global's latest acquisition. Michael's phone buzzed continuously, likely his superiors at Morgan Stanley realizing their star VP had been unknowingly sabotaging their chances with one of the world's most valuable companies. Sarah, I called out, show them the property portfolio. The country club's exterior screens lit up, displaying my real estate holdings, the entire block of Manhattan where Michael rented his luxury apartment, the building where my father's investment firm leased office space, the exclusive shopping complex where Amanda bragged about shopping. You own. Michael's voice cracked. You own everything. Not everything, I corrected him. Just the important things, like the mortgage company holding your house loan. Or the private equity firm that's about to decline your latest bonus request. Ms. Harrison, Sarah appeared beside me, tablet in hand. Singapore transfer confirmed. The additional funds have been wired. Also, your father's investment firm just lost their biggest client to us. I watched my father's face as he realized what that meant. His boutique investment firm had been hanging by a thread, kept afloat only by that one major client. A client that now preferred doing business with his failure daughter. The valet service was a nice touch, Michael, I said, walking toward the helicopter. Though next time, check who owns the cars you're having parked. Most of them belong to my subsidiaries. Julia, please, my mother made one last attempt. We're still family. We can work together, support each other. I paused at the helicopter's door. Support? Like when you banned me from family investments. Or when you told the country club board I couldn't afford membership. I smiled. By the way, the board meeting tomorrow is cancelled. Along with your memberships. You can't do this, Michael protested weakly. Actually, I can. And I am. I checked my watch. A gesture they'd seen me do countless times, never realizing it was controlling more than just time. At my signal, every screen in and around the country club lit up with the same message. Harrison Global Technologies announces $5 billion Singapore expansion. Enjoy the rest of the party, I said, stepping into the helicopter. Though you might want to check your accounts tomorrow. It seems Morgan Stanley is reviewing all VP positions, starting with those who failed to recognize significant investment opportunities. As the helicopter lifted off, I watched their figures grow smaller. My family, their friends, their entire world of artificial success diminishing beneath me. Through my earpiece I could hear the Singapore board members discussing the acquisition, billions of dollars hanging on my next decision. "Sarah," I called out over the noise of the rotors, "send them a gift." "The usual, Ms. Harrison?" "No." I smiled, thinking of all the times they'd mocked my little tech job. "Send them a bus pass. After all, they'll need to get used to public transportation." The helicopter banked toward my private airfield where HG001 waited. Below, the country club, my country club, continued to display the evidence of their daughter's success, while the family that had dismissed her for so long stood in the darkness, finally understanding what real business looked like. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success they never saw coming, delivered with a precision that makes every previous slight worth it. And as my jet lifted off for Singapore, I couldn't help but think that parking cars had been worth it, just to see their faces when they realized who really owned the lot. "Sarah," I said as we reached cruising altitude, "send the country club a bill for the helicopter landing. Address it to Michael Harrison, former VP of Morgan Stanley. After all, he'd insisted on managing tonight's event. It was only fair he should manage the expenses too." As we crossed the Pacific toward Singapore, Sarah handed me one final update. "Your brother's Morgan Stanley termination is confirmed, effective immediately." The board cited catastrophic failure to recognize key investment opportunities. Also, your parents' country club membership fees have been retroactively adjusted to the non-family rate. I leaned back in my jet's custom leather seat, opening my laptop to review the Singapore acquisition details. "And the bus passes?"